As we raise our vibrations, as the earth raises her vibration, all of the things that are unlike this higher vibration must come up to be healed. It's called purification and cleansing, and it's exactly what's happening on planet Earth right now.
Welcome to the Voices of the One Mind, where the elixir of wisdom flows freely. Join us as we dive into the profound thoughts of extraordinary human beings who embody wisdom, offering insights that serve as a bridge to awakening. Unshackling minds from the chains of suffering, our conversations pave the way for enhanced health, enriched lives, and exponential spiritual growth. Get ready to sip on the nectar of the One Mind with us.
On today's episode, we again have a remarkable human being joining us from the United States. He is a pioneer in human potential, began his spiritual journey in early years, driven by a desire to understand life's fundamental truths. He developed his psychic and intuitive abilities and later created the Alpha Theta programming method. Renowned as a spiritual teacher, healer, medium, and author, he has dedicated decades to guiding individuals on their spiritual paths. His teachings focus on self-awareness, healing, and consciousness evolution. Hereby, he blends ancient wisdom with contemporary demands, emphasizing inner work, meditation, and self-reflection. Gifted in connecting with higher dimensional beings, he offers healing sessions that release blockages and traumas. Humble and grounded, he continues his own spiritual growth while actively guiding others. His work constantly evolves with the changing landscape of human consciousness and awakening. Welcome, Sal Rachel. Great to have you here. Thank you, Sal, for accepting our invitation. Welcome to our episode today. Happy to have you here. So the first question I would have is starting from the fact that humanity is going through quite a rapid and intense shift nowadays. Not that there were shifts before, but not in the intensity that we feel it now. What is your perception on it?
Well, there are many ways to look at the current shift. We can look at it from a scientific point of view, from a psychological and a metaphysical point of view. And I'm going to start with the psychological because I feel that that is one of the most important areas of exploration that needs to occur regarding the shift. So let's take a look at what's happening in our psyche, what's happening emotionally and mentally with humanity at this time. We are living in a time that religious people call apocalypse. The word apocalypse literally means the revealing of all that has been hidden or the lifting of the veil. And psychologically, this means that all of these subconscious negative core beliefs and negative emotional traumas that human beings have collected, they're all coming to the surface to be healed and released. So as we raise our vibrations, as the earth raises her vibration, all of the things that are unlike this higher vibration must come up to be healed. It's called purification and cleansing, and it's exactly what's happening on planet Earth right now. We're getting in touch with the good, the bad, and the ugly that's been hidden away in our deep subconscious minds for millennia, for a long time. And as you said before we began, this is not a new occurrence, but it is coming to a climax, to a culmination at this time. And there are many reasons for this. We may get into some of the reasons behind this rapid shift. It's simple enough to just say it's a divine dispensation, that it's a time when the higher consciousness of the universe has decided, okay, humanity's ready to graduate to the next level in this cosmic schoolhouse. And when I say that, I realize there are a lot of human beings that are not ready to make this shift. And the universe has a degree of perfection about it. So even though it looks like a tragedy for those souls that are not ready to make the shift, it really is not a tragedy from a higher vantage point. The Earth is going from third density to fourth density as a planet. And the souls that live on her must be able to adapt to living in fourth density. And if they're unable to adapt, there are third density planets that are set up to receive those souls who are unable to make the shift. It only looks like a tragedy from a human perspective, but from a cosmic perspective, they are not going to do well in the new Earth, and so they're going to go to a planet that is better suited for them. How many souls are we talking about? Possibly as high as 70-75% of humanity may not make it through the shift. So the Earth population may drop to 2 billion, 3 billion, something like that. No lower than 1 billion, and probably no higher than 3 billion by the time the shift is over. The souls that remain with the Earth are going to create the golden age of peace and prosperity that's been talked about for a long time, the new Earth of harmony, balance, love, unity. This is promised us, and it is exactly what we will experience in the coming years. It's not going to be easy, it's not going to be quick, but it is inevitable that humanity will wake up and realize that we are one being expressing through many bodies, through many life forms, and we are one planet, a living, conscious planet. And this is our destiny. If you want to expand on some of the aspects of this shift in specific details, let's do it. If you have some specific questions about the shift.
Now, this is in perfect alignment with the Hopi prophecies. They mentioned that around 70% of the humanity will vanish. You mentioned in your answer about the fact that the Earth raised the physical vibration. And now I'm thinking, what can one, or we as humanity, do to raise this physical vibration to support and integrate the higher frequencies, for example, from the sun, from the earth, which are much higher now, as you just mentioned, than before?
Yes, excellent question. And I know some of the audience has read the book Soul Integration, and there is a section in that book that talks about specific things we can do to raise our vibration. Now, I've changed the priority of some of these techniques and processes since I wrote the book. So it's going to be a little bit different than what's in the current edition of Soul Integration. But the very first principle is to spend time with higher vibrational souls. And I know that's not easy to do. Not everybody can just take off to India and go to find an ashram where there's a more enlightened soul. But we have the internet, and even though it's not the same as being there in person, we can learn a great deal from various teachers online. Some of them even offer events free of charge, others various workshops, dissertations, lectures. And so it's important to avail yourself of what is available online as well as in person. Again, it depends whether you live in a remote area where there's no physical teachers present, or whether you are in a cultural mecca, as it's often called, where there's tons of teachers. But at any rate, that's the first principle for raising your vibration, is to be around high vibrational souls. Now, I realize many of us are called to serve those souls who are not at a higher vibration, who are reaching out for help. And that's a lot of the work I do. I work with various souls, some of them already far along on their path, and some just getting started on their path. So you may have to balance spending time with students, clients, patients, general public, family members that may be at a lower vibration than yourself, and balance that out with going to places, gathering with other healers or teachers or therapists who have a higher vibration. So it's a little bit of a balancing act to get your nourishment and your regeneration, your revitalization from those souls who are at a higher vibration, and then basically bring that higher vibration to the lower dimensional souls who have not yet reached that level of vibration. So it is a balancing act, and in times past, we would devote an entire lifetime to one or the other, sitting in a cave on a mountaintop, sitting in an ashram or a temple or a monastery, for doing a life of religious service in the monastery, etc. And then maybe in the next lifetime, we're totally into family and business and things like that. But in this lifetime, we're called to do all three. Most of us are called to do all three: family, business, and spirituality to some degree. And so it's a much more advanced program when we're bringing our higher spiritual nature into the world of form, the world of duality, Maya, illusion, the matrix, whatever you want to call this outer world that believes for the most part in separation. And so we're here to bring the truth that we are not separate, that we are all part of one divine being expressing through billions of life forms. So we're here to bring that message to those who have become trapped in ego, trapped in the personality, trapped in the duality, the Maya, the illusion. And at the same time, we need to regenerate ourselves. We need to take actions that will raise our vibration. And so the first one is spending time with higher vibrational souls. The second one is meditation. It does not have to be Vipassana style, where you sit in a lotus posture. It can be a moving meditation, such as Tai Chi or Qigong, or even a walk in nature can be a meditation. So meditation is the second most important aspect of raising your vibration. Breathing exercises is third, and of course that can be combined with meditation. You can do Kriya Yoga, Kundalini Yoga, various other disciplines that involve a combination of breathing techniques and meditation. And then of course we have a right diet, which doesn't have to be super strict, but it does have to be consistent, that there's certain things you avoid and certain things you consume, and certain times of the day when it's better to eat than other times of the day, and things of that nature. In fact, walking in nature is number 5, and I mentioned that can also be a meditation. And number 6 is listening to high vibrational music. That can be chanting, it can be invocations, it can be just meditation music, inspiring, uplifting songs, things of that nature. And of course, calling on spirit guides can also be a way to raise your vibration. Some of you have done some channeling, or you've done some direct communication with spirit guides. And if they're high-level spirit guides, then that could certainly raise your vibration. And there's many other things, learning about your circadian rhythms. When is the best time to be awake? When is the best time to sleep? Unfortunately, in our society, most of us are locked into a schedule of being awake or being asleep, which may or may not agree with our circadian rhythms, our natural tendency, when to be awake, when to be asleep. So that's another one. Minimizing electromagnetic pollution is another one. Keep your devices at least 3 meters away from where you sleep, or turn them off entirely. And try to sleep with your head facing away from any transmission towers if you have a choice. It may not be easy to do that, especially if you live in a large city, trying to stay away from 5G antennas and radiation sources and things like that. Getting out into nature, I mentioned earlier, is very important. Getting away from indoor pollution periodically, going for walks, getting out into communing with the plants and animals. And there's, as I said before, about 40 of them listed in the Soul Integration book. Things like wearing loosely fit cotton clothing as opposed to skin-tight synthetics, sleeping in loose cotton clothing or in the nude, things like that. And there's feng shui and vastu and ways to arrange the energy flow through your home. And that can be an important way to make it easier to meditate, for example. And if you have the option, living in a high vibrational place on the earth is good. I spent many years in Sedona, and I'm now in another area that's considered to be a power spot or sacred place. And visiting those sacred places periodically, even if you cannot live there, maybe there's no affordable housing in those places or whatever. So these are just a few of the things you can do to raise your vibration. Being vigilant about negative patterns, negative emotional patterns, negative traumas that you've had in the past that are still operating in your subconscious mind. Catching yourself when you start to judge yourself instead of loving yourself. That takes practice. You may beat yourself up for 10 minutes and then realize what you're doing and stop. But eventually, if you are vigilant and committed, you may catch yourself the minute you start to degrade yourself or judge yourself and say, wait a minute, I'm a beautiful, powerful, creative, intelligent child of God. I don't deserve to beat myself up. I deserve to treat myself with love and respect. Have I made mistakes on the human plane? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean I have to condemn myself and beat myself up if I don't meet some imaginary expectations that I've set for myself. Oh, you can't think any negative thoughts. You can't get angry because you're a spiritual person or whatever it is. So these are some of the things you can do to raise your vibration. Stay away from negative people. I know that's not easy to do. The world is full of negative people. About 3/4 of humanity are primarily negative. But do your best to minimize your time around negative people.
Thank you very much. You were mentioning that there are several aspects of this massive shift. Definitely, I agree with you that we should withdraw ourselves from this illusionary life, the Maya, and go more within. You also mentioned that you work with many individuals on their spiritual path, and I would like to ask you, what are the most common blockages and traumas that you help them to overcome, and if you can mention maybe a couple of those practices.
Indeed, let's do that. One that's very important that comes up consistently, and many of you will relate to this immediately, is how do you be on a spiritual path, a path of personal growth, a path of learning to open to receive God's love, learning to live a virtuous, harmonious life when you have negative family members, some of which might think you're crazy, you've gone off the deep end of the swimming pool, you're just out of touch with reality, you're an airy-fairy dreamer, space cadet, whatever phrase they use to describe you. How do you deal with family members that are not on board with the transformation that you are undergoing within yourself? That's a really important corollary to your question. And so let's address that, because it's something that I think affects a very large number of people who are on a spiritual path and the path of personal development. So the very first thing is, of course, actions speak louder than words. You may talk until you're blue in the face, and you're not going to convince your uncle or your stepfather or young daughter or whoever it is. You're not going to convince them of the kinds of things that we're talking about in this podcast. So how are you going to deal with those kind of people, especially if you live with them or you see them frequently? They're a big part of your daily life, and you spend time with them, and then you go away from them feeling more negative after spending time with them, but you love them and you feel obligated to spend time with them, and so on. Another example might be an ailing parent, maybe bedridden parent, and the rest of the family has opted out of helping, and so you feel the burden has fallen on you to help that sick parent through however many years they have left in their life. And maybe it's a daily challenge. Maybe they've got dementia or Alzheimer's or something, and you don't even recognize your loved one anymore because their mental degradation. So these are some of the examples that we want to apply this question to. So back to the question, how do you deal with situations like that and keep your vibration up? And of course, you have to let go of any guilt that you may have regarding taking care of ailing family members or spending time with negative family. So you have to let go of any guilt you have around taking care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, you don't have enough energy to take care of anyone else. It's just the reality of the situation. You must take care of yourself first in order to be able to take care of people who need your help, who are maybe highly negative family members or whoever they are. So honoring your needs first, it may sound selfish, but it's really not selfish. You want to be able to regenerate and revitalize enough to be able to help those souls that are in need. So the first step is taking care of yourself, getting enough sleep, setting boundaries with your loved ones. Yes, I can come for 1 hour every afternoon from 3 to 4 p.m. at your bedside and talk to you and give you healing, encourage you, just keep your company, just be there for you. But I cannot do 3 hours twice a day or round the clock. I will become exhausted, and then you will get no benefit out of my presence by your bedside. So these may be the kind of conversations you're going to need to have, where you are simply honest and say, okay, I may be a powerful, creative, spiritual being, but on a human level, I can't stay awake 24/7 without eating by your bedside, every moment of every day without getting up for any reason. It's just not happening. I'm still in a human body. I must honor and respect this human body. So the blockage of feeling guilty for not doing more for loved ones is one of the first blockages we want to undo. And the way to undo it is to start by loving yourself, pouring God's love into your being an open vessel for God's love to come pouring in, filling you, revitalizing you, reinvigorating you, so that you have more to give to others. So that's really the first step. And look for other ego issues here. Some of us go overboard on helping because we think, well, it's virtuous to help and it means I'm a spiritual person and I'm going to give it to charity and I'm going to spend time at the food bank and I'm going to spend time at the assisted living facility and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to be a Mother Teresa times 10 or something like that. That's the going overboard on helping. It's becoming a people pleaser rather than a helper. And maybe a God pleaser. Well, if I do enough service work, enough charity, then maybe God will find favor on me and give me a break on other areas of my life. That's not how it works. God, you're not here to impress God with all your good works. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. God is loving you continuously, even if you're a selfish person. So you're not going to get more of God's love if you're a virtuous person than if you're a saint. You get the same amount of love as if you're a sinner. However, the saint may be more open to receiving the same amount of love that's there, whereas the sinner feels guilty and may not open to receive the love that's coming in the same amount as it is to the saint. Just like the sun's light. If you're a sinner or a saint and you're walking down the street on a sunny day, the sun is shining on both of you equally. It doesn't really care whether you're a sinner or a saint. Its job is to shine. God's love loves. That's its job, to love. And it will love you no matter what. It's unconditional love. However, you have to be able to open to receive that love. You must feel worthy of that love. Otherwise, you're going to invalidate it or put up a shield and say, oh, no, I don't deserve this. I'm going to go without because I'm a miserable sinner and I deserve to be punished, blah, 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 all of that. So you do have to be, again, coming back to loving yourself. And so look for any blockages around religion, around the church. Maybe you were brought up to believe you were going to go to a fiery place deep in the earth somewhere where a guy in a red suit runs around with a pitchfork. So if you have that belief, you're going to have to let go of that belief because it's simply not so. Hell is where we are right now when we beat ourselves up, when we judge ourselves, and when we're constantly fearing God's punishment. We're already in hell. Sorry to say it, but you don't have to wait till you die. You don't have to go down into some subterranean cavern somewhere with this guy with the pitchfork. It's already happening right now in your life. If you're fearful of God, if you believe that God's going to punish you, you're already punishing yourself for the things you've done. Yes, you may have to apologize to people. You might have to make a real effort to change your behavior if you've made some bad choices. But the best way to do that is to love yourself while you are making the commitment to changing your behaviors. Another obstacle is addictions. Addictions come from the belief that a substance or process can give you what you seem to be lacking. Let's say that you're full of stress and you want relaxation and you think a cigarette is going to help you relax or a drink is going to help you relax. So what you've done is you're worshiping idols, as the Bible would say. You've put the cigarette or the liquor bottle or the needle or the pill or whatever it is you've put on the altar in place of God. You think that pill is going to save me, that needle is going to save me, and so you are worshiping a false idol. And the first thing to do is recognize it. Don't beat yourself up because you keep feeling like it's out of control. I try to stop smoking every day, and the next day, before I know it, I've lit up a cigarette, and I just can't seem to stop myself from reaching for the box of cigarettes. So stop right there and start loving yourself and say, you know what? I'm still God's beloved child, even if I'm smoking, even if I'm taking a third glass of booze. And I promised myself I would quit after 2 glasses, even if I'm still going to the dealer on the street corner for my Coke habit or whatever it is. So be good to yourself and recognize what you're doing. You are putting that substance or process. It can be a lust for more money, a lust for more sex, a lust for approval from others. So it can be a process addiction too. I'm addicted to other people's attention. That's a process addiction. Same thing. Start by loving yourself. Start by realizing God's love is in you right now. You simply have to become aware of it and open to it. And no amount of approval from others is going to take the place of God's love for you right now. So this is again about loving yourself through your addictions, and get help. The 12-step program is temporarily quite useful. Ask for help, admit your shortcomings. So those are a few of the blockages that I can mention in the amount of time we have here. So let's go back to your questions.
Thank you very much. You mentioned love yourself and go through this hardship. Definitely, in order to do this, you need to establish a deeper connection with higher self and divine source. How do one cultivate a deeper connection with the divine source, with our higher self?
Excellent question. So let's go deep into this question. First of all, we become aware that the ego yells loudly and the still small voice of spirit speaks softly. So we have to let go of some of the noise so we can hear the voice of spirit. And there are certain tips and tricks we can do. For example, you can ask your higher self to give you a sign or signal. For example, let's suppose you're contemplating a question that has a yes or no answer. For example, should I move to this location? Should I invest in this company? Things like that. They have yes or no answers. And when the answer is yes, you feel a warm, satisfying feeling in your chest. And when the answer is no, you feel a cold shiver down the spine. You can ask your higher self to give you those types of signs or signals to alert you to the correct answer from the point of view of higher self. There's other things you can do. There's muscle testing, where the strong arm is a yes and the weak arm is a no. Sometimes the pendulum maybe goes forward and backward for yes, left and right for no, or the other way around. Dowsing rods, maybe they cross when it's yes and open when it's no. You can calibrate these various techniques to assist you in listening to your intuition, listening to your higher self. Let's go to the question now, a little deeper than that. How do you tell the difference between ego and higher self? And the first part of that answer is higher self lives life from the inside out. You are a radiant, complete, whole, vast, intelligent being of light with the kingdom of heaven within you. So you have this vast storehouse of knowledge and wisdom and light and energy and love within you. And higher self radiates that love and that light continuously out into the world and looks for ways to be of maximum service to those who are needing help in the world. So that's how higher self operates. Ego does just the opposite. It lives life from the outside in. It's constantly trying to get things from the world in order to fill this feeling of lack and limitation. Now, obviously, for most of us, there are certain things we need from the world. And so there are going to be times you're going to be an ego. And I think the ultimate balance is 80% higher self, 20% ego, approximately. So if you're going to the supermarket to buy food for next week, that's an ego activity by definition. You are filling a lack. Your cupboards are bare and you need food for the next week. So you're filling those empty places in your cupboards, in your kitchen or pantry. So that would be an ego activity. Now, it gets a little bit tricky with things like loving relationships, because both ego and higher self want loving relationships, but they want them for different reasons. Higher self wants loving relationships because it loves to give and receive love, and it wants to feel and celebrate that love with other human beings. Ego wants loving relationships because it hates to be alone. It wants to escape from the feeling of loneliness. It wants validation, approval, and acceptance from others. So sometimes you'll have a desire and you'll say, is this desire coming from higher self or from ego? And you'll have to look at what is the motivation behind this desire. And more, as you remind yourself that the kingdom of heaven is within and that you have need of very little from this world, that will help you get in the habit of feeling your wholeness, your completeness. And then you won't listen to ego as much. You might recognize ego when it comes in and says, oh, there's ego, worried about approval once again. I'm going to just concentrate on loving people, being a source of love for this world. And as much as I focus on giving and radiating from the center of my being, the more I will be able to stay in my higher self and stop listening to the voice of ego. So these are some important points when it comes to how do you listen to true inner guidance. And this can also be applied to spirit guides. It can be applied to earthly teachers as well. Is there judgment in the message coming from the guides or the teachers, or is it unconditional love? And you can tell by how you feel in your body. Maybe again, the yes is a wonderful, uplifting, energetic, but also calm and peaceful feeling at the same time. That says, I'm in the presence of somebody who's truly loving, who has my best interest at heart. Or maybe they're saying all the right things, but you feel heavy, tired, bored, low energy. You know, I used the example the other day with someone. I said, you go to two speakers who are speaking in front of a group of people, and they're saying exactly the same things. Each speaker, almost word for word, saying exactly the same thing. One of them has you energized on the edge of your seat, feeling wonderful, feeling alive, energetic. The other one is putting you to sleep, even though they're saying the same exact words. And that's because one of them is living their truth and is projecting with good energy their truth out into the world. And the other one is going through the motion, maybe trying to convince themselves of what the words are saying, but they aren't really living it. They aren't embodying it energetically. So another important point here is that we need to embody who we are energetically. It's not enough to say, oh, I'm one with God, or God loves me, or I'm a powerful, intelligent being. That's not enough. You have to feel it in your heart and solar plexus, especially the center of love and compassion and the center of personal power and personal will. So these are some of the things you can do to listen more deeply to the voice of higher self or Holy Spirit and less to the voice of ego.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing these insights. One thing I'm curious about, how do you see the current AI revolution? Do you think that the super consciousness souls, the young children that are coming now on the earth, will have the possibility, will know how to deal with and solve using AI humanity's problem for good? Or do you believe it's a curse for humanity?
You've already got the right direction on this. It depends on how it's used. It's a tool. It can be a very powerful and useful tool in the right hands, as you just said. But again, like anything else, the ego has a lust for power and control. And 60 or 70% of the so-called world leaders have a lust for power and control. That's how they got where they are. And they are going to use these tools to try and enslave humanity because that's what the ego does. And maybe they have help from extraterrestrials or secret societies or the banking cartels or the medical cartels or some other so-called outside source, which is, of course, an illusion. There are no any outside sources. That's an illusion. It's all God. But in this case, there are aspects of God in the form of beings, human or extraterrestrial, who believe they need to control and manipulate other human beings. I call this false power. So true power is recognizing God within. And when I'm in true power, I have no need to manipulate or control anyone. Why would I need to control another human being if I'm in my true power? But if I'm in false power from the ego, I may need to feel like I'm powerful by controlling others and suppressing others and this sort of thing. This is what the so-called power elite is all about, or so-called dark cabal or dark Illuminati, whatever name you want to give to those souls that are trying to enslave humanity. So AI is one of the tools that can be used to enslave humanity, but it can also be used to help humanity tremendously. It will never overtake human consciousness, but it's faster than the human brain. You can do more instructions per second. You can have algorithms within algorithms within algorithms that mimic the intelligence of human beings, that unless you're extremely aware, you can't even tell the difference between the AI and the human. That's how advanced it can be. But it will never overtake humanity, and it's important to recognize that AI does not have a soul. All human beings have some degree of soul, even though there have been teachers that said that some human beings are soulless. That's not true. We all have soul. Even the darkest, dimmest light bulbs in the human family still have a soul. It may be highly fragmented, they may not be unified or integrated, but they still have a soul. But AI does not have a soul, and that's the big difference. AI cannot be conscious of itself. It can appear to be conscious of itself. It can mimic being conscious of itself, but it can never actually be conscious of itself.
Thank you very much for answering to this and provide your perspective on it. I've been pondering a lot about AI in human, also in my life and also overall, and how this can, if it's used as a tool, as you said, to enslave humanity, or it's a tool to help us in the future. Now, I've been researching a lot about you, and you mention or you use in your practices ancient wisdom and contemporary science. How do you combine these different worlds in your healing practices?
Well, I have a healing practice called timeline healing, and each timeline healing embraces two basic principles: the non-locality principle of quantum physics and the law of attraction of metaphysics. The law of non-locality basically is science way of saying we're all one. It involves the entanglement principle is an aspect of non-locality. This is where they separated particles at great distances, made changes to one, and it instantaneously registered in the other, meaning that they weren't really apart. It looked like they were apart in time and space, but they were really still intimately connected. So faster than light communication was how they originally said it. But now what it really is that there's realms beyond time and space. And so non-locality is beyond time and space. So you can go anywhere within time and space and perceive what is taking place there. And you notice I'm using present tense because time and space are like a giant tapestry. Maybe the time threads go this way and the space threads go this way. And the past, present, and future are all contained in that tapestry. And that includes all the infinite possibilities and probabilities of the future. And believe it or not, the past also has possibilities and probabilities, although it's hard for the mind to conceive of that. So you can go anywhere in the time-space tapestry and perceive in the eternal now moment, this moment right now, what is taking place. So the past, the present, and the future are all happening now. And that's easy to prove. I like to use the tavern analogy. A young man walks into the tavern and he sees a sign behind the bar that says, "Free beer tomorrow." He gets all excited, runs home, can hardly sleep that night. Next day, the minute the tavern opens, he bursts through the door and says, "I'd like my free beer now." The bartender is reading his newspaper and he glances up and points to the sign, "Free beer tomorrow." So that's an example about how it's always now. The tomorrow is an idea, it's a concept. Yes, in time and space, there's the measure of relative motion. So you can say, well, the last time the Earth was in this position around the sun, I did some activity, okay, 1 year ago. Or you can say, the next time the Earth goes around the sun, 1 year from now, I will plan on doing something. That's linear time, which we all agree to, and the world runs on linear time. But linear time is like a bubble contained within a larger reality, which we would call non-locality. So non-locality combined with the law of attraction, which basically says, I'm going to change the law of metaphysics just slightly here. Instead of your thoughts create your reality, which is only partially true, by the way, I'm going to say a much more accurate statement. The quality of your consciousness determines your experience of reality. I'll repeat it. The quality of your consciousness determines your experience of reality. So if you choose to put out or project a certain level of consciousness into the world, that level will be reflected back to you. Call it the law of reflection if you want to, but it's the law of cause and effect, basically. So you're going anywhere you want in time and space, and you're bringing the energy and the consciousness of different places in time and space into your present consciousness. If it's a negative experience, you can heal it using timeline healing. You can go back in time and interact with your past selves and give them a healing. If you want to manifest something, you can go back to a positive event in your past and bring that beautiful, happy, powerful energy into your being and then project that out into the world. So you're essentially connecting with a successful version of yourself and then coming from the consciousness of that successful self in order to create a successful future. So this is just a very, very rudimentary explanation of timeline healing, and it's just one part of timeline healing.
Thank you very much, Sal. Can you share with us a successful story of one of your...
Sure. So there was a couple that came to me many years ago. They were having trouble conceiving a child. They had been trying for 10 years. They had both been to extensive medical exams. No doctor could find anything wrong with either one of them. She was fertile, he was potent, no problem, but they couldn't seem to conceive a child. And so she came to me in a timeline healing session, and we discovered that in a past lifetime, she had lost her children in a natural disaster, was unable to rescue them. And she felt like a failure as a mother. God's punishing me by taking my children away. I guess I should never be a mother again. I'm such a failure. And so she carried that energy into this lifetime, and that's why she was unable to conceive. So after a couple of timeline healing sessions on this topic, we stopped, and then a short time later, I heard that she was pregnant. She ended up giving birth to a healthy child, and then a couple years later, gave birth to a second healthy child. So that would be one example.
Thank you very much. They use timeline healing together or only one person?
Well, we used it with the wife, and then I think she shared it with the husband later on. But they were very happy to report that after that she was able to conceive. So.
Thank you very much for answering to all our questions. It was a beautiful session, and I hope for our audience that can gain a lot of knowledge and love yourself.
Absolutely. That's the one parting message, is to be good to yourselves. Don't let your ego beat up on you just because you made a mistake. Forgive yourself and move on. That's my closing message, actually.
Before we close, Sal, can you share something about your books?
Well, I have 7 books. Life on the Cutting Edge is the first one, and then Earth Changes and Beyond, Earth Awakens, Soul Integration, The Real History of the Earth, The Mystery of Time, and The Secrets of Unlimited Energy. So there's a total of 7 books, and I will be writing an 8th book in the not-too-distant future on enlightened communities. So you can go to the website, salverkelly.com, and you can order the books directly, as well as meditations and other recordings. And so you can check back with us if you want more information about timeline healing or about the books.
Thank you very much for sharing all these insights with us today, Sal. I'm sure that a lot of them are good pointers for our audience.
Many blessings to you. Namaste.
Many blessings. Namaste.
Thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey with another voice of the One Mind. We thank you for your support, and to ensure that you never miss a drop of this wisdom nectar, click subscribe and stay connected with us on the onemind.org. Until next time, may your path be illuminated with profound insights and growth.